So, Chantal, how do people moralize their political attitudes and why does it matter?
Yeah, so my name is Chantal D'Amore, and I'm currently working as a PhD researcher in social psychology at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands. And in this video, I will share some insights about the psychology of attitude moralization and how it relates to polarization in society. Um, so, polarization in society means that two groups of people stand in direct opposition against one another. Think, for example, about Trump supporters and Biden supporters in a recent election period in the United States. So, such polarization can have dangerous consequences and pose a threat to healthy democratic functioning. So, we can think of recent events like the Capitol Hill riot, violent protests, or the denial of science behind the COVID virus. So, how can events like these spiral out of control? Well, research suggests that one important reason is that people's attitudes in both groups become moralized. And this moralization it means that people connect their attitudes with their core moral values. And at that point, these attitudes obtain strong emotional meaning and are perceived as objective universal truths. So this can be dangerous because the result is often that people become more hostile and intolerant towards their opponents, calling them immoral and distrusting any of their ideas. And as you might see, this only increases the conflict between groups, and it stands in a way of achieving constructive societal change. And in my research, I aim to better understand how polarized groups like Trump supporters and Biden supporters arrive at states like this. So one line of research we conducted within this context of the polarized U.S. election, we followed a group of Trump supporters and a group of Biden supporters over a 6-month period to better understand when, how, and among whom moralization is likely to develop over time. So the first question: when is moralization likely to occur? We found that the actions of our opponents can serve as a trigger for moralization when they seem harmful and immoral to us. So, for instance, when we showed participants real time events in which their opponents said that they were willing to use violence against us to achieve their goals, it triggered people to moralize their attitudes. So, kind of a backlash effect. So, how does that work psychologically? We found that when people believe that their opponents are intentionally harming them and their values, people respond with strong emotions like anger that defensively push their attitudes into the moral domain. So, when our opponents threaten what we value in society, we emotionally protect our values by means of moralizing our attitudes. And then the last question: among whom is moralization likely to develop? Well, we found that the perception of these two groups really matters. When people believe that the two opposing groups are really strongly polarized, are really different from each other, they tend to moralize more compared to people who think that the groups are actually not so much polarized. So, this idea of us versus them seems to make people prone to moralize their attitudes and protect their core values in society against them, their enemies. So moralization is likely to happen within context when our enemies want to harm us through the mechanism of anger, and especially among people who perceive large differences between the two groups. And although I have focused on the dangerous side of moralization in this video, I would like to end with mentioning a brighter side. The power of attitude moralization could also help to change our behavior as a means to solve societal problems together. And the most important example here may be climate change. As the scientific evidence is alarming, it seems that attitude moralization is strongly needed to motivate our behavior to solve this global crisis together.